Hello, hello. I'm hoping this is working. I was trying to go through Zoom and it was giving me a hard time, and I couldn't get logged in. It was very bizarre. Normally, I can kind of stream from Zoom onto this platform, and for some reason, it was just not giving me that option. So, if you are here, please say hello. Let me know if it's working. I'm going to check on my phone here too and just make sure that I'm live. Because it is one of those days. Okay. I think I'm live. How's everyone doing today? Let me know. And if you're watching this live, let me know. If you're doing a replay, also let me know too, so I can know who gets to see this information, and hopefully it will be something good for you to learn or something to pass on to friends. I've been trying to think of what I could do for lives, because I get so nervous and I never know what to say and I stutter, and I decided that I was going to try to do some more lives to kind of get out of the comfort zone and see how that goes. So I've been looking at articles online of things to talk about, and one thing that I found was really neat. It's called Finding Your Inner Peace, and I was like, this would be perfect to go with what I've been trying to achieve in my personal life, and I know other people want to achieve it also. So I was like, why don't I just do this, read this article and kind of talk to you about it and see what you guys think. So this is from Loner Wolf. They send an email out every so often, and I was like, this would be perfect to just kind of get on and chat about. So what is inner peace? What does that mean to you? If you hear that word, what does it mean? I know for me, peace is just like calmness, and just like everything in my body is feeling just like it's flowing right and it's working right. Just like a sense of like relief, like when you're having to go to the potty really fast and you're like, oh, I just gotta go, and you're like, go, 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 and that's the only thing you can think about, and then the minute that you go, you're like, oh, this is like relief. I know it's kind of a weird example, but hey, I'm in the medical field, so I gotta think of weird stuff to talk about too. So for the inner peace, it's what we feel in our bodies, really. It's in your mind, heart, and soul. And instead of trying to strive to control everything and every outcome, which I am totally guilty of that, it's just we need to love ourselves and love each other and just feel a sense of profound acceptance, forgiveness, and love, and compassion for ourselves, others, and just in life in general. So, what does that mean to you when you think about feeling a sense of acceptance and forgiveness, love for yourself? What does it mean when you think about it for others? And when you think of the word like acceptance and love, where does it feel in your body? Like, do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your head? Does it make your arms tingly or anything like that? Just kind of like take a moment and think about that. And forgiveness is such a big one. Like, we don't forgive each other enough. We don't forgive ourselves enough at all. I am so guilty of that. I'll do stuff and I'm like, why did I do that? Or I don't know, just forgiveness, I feel like, is a really hard one. And it is hard to forgive others, especially when you've been hurt. So if you can just think of some love and compassion to feel instead of, like void and lack, that is ideal. And for inner peace, you can find that in any given moment of any day. It doesn't have to be, at the end of the day when you're in the bed and you're just laying down thinking about the day and you're trying to think of stuff to be grateful for. You can find that in like simple things, like Everyone says when you first get up in the morning, thank the universe that you got up out of bed. Or another one is like at lunchtime, you can just take a moment to sit down and be like, oh, let me just take a breath and check in with myself, see what I might need, what feels good, what doesn't, and just find that inner peace within you of, what your body needs. You can also rest. I found that inner peace and inner rest go good together. And when we look for rest on the outside of the world, with like going on trips and vacations and, just these ideas that we have in our head, or what the rest of the world has said, what rest means, you end up finding the lack of inner peace within yourself. So if you're just always go, 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 and you're thinking that like, oh, I'll just go on a trip to Mexico, but then you have to do snorkeling and all the excursions, and you're like this, and you're just go, 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 and you think it's going to be fun, but then you're stressing out on timelines and the transportation on how to get from point A to point B. It's like you're just kind of destroying that inner peace part that you have to work so hard to find. And it's just not peaceful, and it's not really worth it. But if we get quiet and we rest and we be one with ourselves, then we will feel rested and at peace again. And as most of you know, the best way to do that is through meditation. You can do that with, reading or taking a walk, taking a hike. Sometimes talking with your friend on the phone can also give you some inner peace, or a family member. But you just kind of almost have to put away all the hustle and bustle before you can find it, and just enjoy that moment. Just be present. And with the meditation, I feel like the key is to like surrender and let go of our ego and what we think meditation should look like or is supposed to feel like. If we're fighting ourselves on how meditation is supposed to look, then we're losing the battle. And it's just, I used to do this when I first started meditating. Like, I would sit there and I would close my eyes, and then I would go through like my store list, or I would think about all these insane things, and it's just like, I'm thinking to myself while I'm trying to meditate, like, this isn't working, this is dumb, you're not doing it right, and just going through all this crap in my head that it's not true. But I was almost making it worse for myself because I didn't just surrender to what it is, and just feel into like hearing my heartbeat and knowing that I am like safe, I'm calm, like it's okay to have thoughts, and just kind of put those thoughts on like a cloud and let them go away. And I feel like the more that I did it, the easier it was for me to just sit there and be in silence and just like not think. It's so weird because I remember I'd be meditating and I might be listening to music that helps me the most, because then I'll be focusing on like the notes or the sounds, or if it's a piano, I might think about the piano, and I'm just so zoned in and so focused on what that sounds like that it just makes it so much more easier to let go and surrender and just feel. And it's so calming, it's so nice. And I notice that when I don't meditate and I just kind of go through life of just go, 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 I get so burned out. And like currently right now I'm kind of in that burnout phase because I am human like everyone else, and having the kids and my grandma with me and all of the parties and all of the activities. Like I got to do chaperoning on Wednesday with my daughter at her school, but it was kind of like the stress of like, okay, I have to leave at 9:15 to be there at 10 to yada yada yada. But once I was there, I was like, okay, like I just took a deep breath and I was like, I'm here, I am at the museum, I am with my daughter, let's explore, let's have fun. And I just tried to let go of all of these thoughts of like what all the other parents were doing. You know, they all were taking pictures and they were just looking, you know, they had their other kids with them and they just looked like they were so in the moment too, but really I'm sure they weren't. It's just something that you think about in your head of like what you think it should look like, and really it's not. And when you're chaperoning, there's other kids that are like in the mix, so you're trying to, you know, count. Like I kept going 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5. But at one point we did do this like movie thing, and we sat down. It was like a dome, and it was so cool. And we got to be astronauts for that like 30-minute show. And you know, I feel like those are like the best times when you can just get out of your adult brain. And I did this at Disney World also. I just got out of my adult brain and thought, just think of what it feels like to be a child right now, exploring the outer space, or exploring, you know, the Disney shows and the rides. Like the one I finally let myself go was Peter Pan, and we were on this little ship above the world. And I wasn't thinking, because at one point I was like, how is this thing holding us? I'm looking up, it's pitch black, and I'm thinking, am I going to fall? Like, are we safe? And then I finally looked down and I could see the village, you know, like when Peter Pan is flying in the movie. And it was like, this is so cool. Like, this is exactly how the kids feel when you're reading the book and they're visualizing how exciting it is to be on top of this, you know, aircraft just going around and looking down and like, you know, just surrendering to what your imagination wants to do. So one thing that I thought of was a little exercise that we could do. If you're driving, don't do this, but if you're listening at home or wherever and you're in a safe spot, I'll have you do this with me. It's pretty simple. So what I'll have you do is, if you're able to sit, go ahead and sit. And then I want you to tense up your entire body. And I want you to imagine that you're being scrunched into a tight ball, and hold that for like 10 seconds. So you can tense your elbows and your arms, you can squeeze, just everything. Think about your face getting all tensed up, and hold that. Oh, and then release. And then once you release, you can kind of feel your body letting go. And if you can feel that, that's pretty much what inner peace is like. Just this big tensing and just like, and then you just let go, and it's like, So that's what it's like when it radiates from inside to outside. It's really calming. And I'm trying to think of like other cool examples that I've done in the past that, you know, I just think of like the releasing, or like when you're really hungry and you sit down and you're eating and your tummy gets full and you just feel that like sense of like, oh, finally I get to eat. I'm sure there's other examples that people probably have that I just can't think of off the top of my head, but that one is kind of what I heard about that exercise. I was like, that's actually kind of cool. Like, or, you know, if you're just squeezing your hands and you release, and just kind of like that sensation you can get. That's what inner peace is like. So let's see. Let me just look at my notes here. So as we know, inner peace is a movement of opening, surrendering, and letting go. But what exactly are we letting go of? That's the question that I even had when I was reading this article. As always, let's look within ourselves first and see all the forms of inner conflict that we carry. So for this practice, it might be painful and challenging for our egos to handle, but it's also important. And there was 12 ways to find inner peace. So one way is be aware of self-improvement treadmill. So if you think about the treadmill, it's just that circular motion that's always going, and you're on the treadmill. And there's a desire to constantly improve, fix, and heal ourselves. And that's kind of how the treadmill wheel can go, and it can trap us. These emotions and feelings are good, and then they'll come back around, and then they're bad, and then they're good, and they're bad. That's excuse me. As you can tell, my throat chakra is trying to come out right now. So you just have to be kind of like aware when you are trying to do self-healing stuff that you're not on that vicious cycle. Because when I first started doing all this work back in 2019, it was that treadmill or even like a wheel or whatever you want to think of it as, where you're like, oh, I got this, I can do this, you're healing. And then you might dive into some deeper stuff and you're like, oh crap, this is heavy, I can't do this. And then you might get to the bottom, to your low, where you're just like, what the hell, I am done, I can't do this anymore. Healing sucks, whatever you want to say. And then you get back up. So just be careful that you're not on that hamster wheel of highs and lows. You just want to make sure that's kind of like a straight, where you're just going straight and you're just going, and sure there could be some heels within that, but don't make them super high and super low. And number 2 is stop expecting that life and people should be different. Because the reality is that you can expect and expect and expect. But what happens at the end of the day? You'll feel worn out, resentful, bitter, stressed, hopeless. And in reality, all of those negative emotions that you may feel are just a waste of time, effort, and energy. So if you just don't have high expectations, you can have some expectations, but just don't make the standard really high, because that's what I do too. I have really high expectations of my husband, my kids, my family, and then reality is that they don't know what my expectations are because I didn't tell them, and it's not fair to them that I get upset when they really had no idea what my expectations were. It's like if you tell someone like, you're my best friend, but I'm not going to tell you what best friends mean to me and what they should be doing for me or with me or fill in the blank, then you can't be upset when your best friend is not acting like your best friend because you never told them how you want a best friend to act, And number 3 is release grudges and resentments. You don't want to waste and spend your time on you don't want to spend your time and energy on negative feelings and emotions, because ultimately that will ruin your inner peace. So if you can just go within, think about the grudge or the resentment or whatever it may be, and if you just do some like EFT tapping around that, you can journal. If you want to talk to somebody, it could be a therapist, a life coach, your best friend, a family member, whatnot, talk to them and just like move that energy throughout you, because it's really not helpful for you to just hold on to this stuff and not feel good, about the situation. You want to just release all that and move on. And number 4 is kind of same thing along those lines, is sit with your emotions and embrace them. And most people dislike sitting through uncomfortable emotions, so it's quite common for a human tendency to suppress, resist, or avoid any feelings that bring up pain. And when you do this practice, that's when the healing happens. And I feel like this kind of, for me, it was around death, and especially like my brother and my grandpa's, more of my brother's death. It was so sudden, so fast, and I felt like I wasn't allowed to grieve because he was my half brother. And I finally had to give myself, after a couple years, that time, that grace, and that permission of, yes, he was your half brother, but he was still your family. You still have the right to grieve. He has many friends grieving, and it's okay. Like, I had to finally just dig up all of those, the sadness, grief, anger, frustration, like all of that. I just had to bring it back up to the surface, and I just had to handle it, deal with it, work through it, and release it. And then I started to feel more healed with time. And I feel like that was like the best thing that I could have done for myself, because otherwise it was eating me alive on all of the would've, should've, could've's, and all of that, negative stuff that I was thinking, and the stories that I was creating within my mind around all of that. And number 5 is realizing that you are not your own thoughts or emotions. So we could get swept up in the stories and the beliefs that our minds generate. But when you think about the story, I want you to ask yourself, is this made up or is this truth? And this kind of goes along with the inner child healing stuff that I do. Like, I even do this with myself too. Like, I have a coworker, her and I just do this. I even looked for another job because I was like, I can't handle her. I don't want to work with her. And there was stuff that is truth that happened, but then I've also made up a lot of stuff in my mind over scenarios that I've thought of, or what I thought she was thinking, what I thought she could be saying. And in reality, I really don't know what she said, what she did, what she thought of. Like, it wasn't said to me. She never came up to me to say X, Y, and Z. It was just completely stories that I made up. So if you can just release those thoughts and emotions that you create within yourself, then you'll be a lot happier and find more inner peace. And number 6 is beware of your obsessive need to control. The desire to control is a product of fear, and it's also closely tied to being a perfectionist. And that really surprised me, because I don't think of myself as a perfectionist, but I do find myself to be a controlling person. And I found this out when I was not driving and my husband was, because when I drive, I know what speed I want to go, how early I want to leave, or whatever. It's just like I have this need that I want to control, because then I feel safe if I'm in control. And I feel like in the spiritual world, it has taught me so much about letting go and just not controlling outcomes and controlling what I think should happen, what needs to happen. It's just letting the divine come to me, speak to me, tell me, it's okay, this is going to happen. It's not going to happen on your timeline, but one day this will happen, and it's always perfect timing. And number 7 is embrace being disliked. And in this world, we are taught to gain our self-worth from external achievements and how popular we are. And it's almost inevitable that nearly all of us fall into the trap. And that does cause us, to disrupt our inner peace. So this one I'm still working on. I feel like it's going to be until my deathbed that I'll be working on not being liked by everyone, because I try to be sweet, I try to be kind, and in reality there's people I don't like and people don't like me, and I just have to release that we are just not meant to, our souls don't have a contract, we're not meant to see each other, talk to each other, or whatnot, and just release. And I feel like with the self-worth, we always look for external. And I notice my 9-year-old doing that too. She'll get all dressed up, hair done, makeup done, looks cute, and she'll come up to me, how do I look? Do I look beautiful? And of course I say, yes, you look beautiful, but how do you feel? How do you think you look? Because I want her to have that internal acceptance and not rely on what other people say, So that's my little tidbit. And number 8 is let go of playing the victim. This is an act of sabotage on an unconscious level. And for the victim, we've all been there, we've all done it. It's something that you have to almost catch yourself in the moment when you're in the middle of it, and catch it, rethink how you're thinking and change your mindset, change the way you're thinking, the words that you're saying, and don't sabotage yourself over it. And number 9 is forgive yourself and therefore others. Refusing forgiveness for yourself for any past mistakes, mess, failures, flaws, deficiency is often a product of low self-esteem. And when we go to the roots of the low self-esteem, we often find toxic core beliefs that tell us that we're bad, not good enough, and so forth. So if you can start doing some of that inner work, and this could be, yet again, by journaling, tapping, talking to someone, and just going back to when that happened, or if you can't think of it, you might have to just journal, and whatever comes forth, just know that's your subconscious mind saying, this is when all this started, when you didn't forgive yourself, blah, blah, blah. So that one is a really hard one. I feel like we all are going to have to do that, and I feel like as time goes on, it's just, you think you're doing something right and you might not be, or what you think is not right could be right at that time, but you're going to switch later. So if you just forgive yourself and move on, you're going to find more of that inner peace. And number 10 is understand that you don't need to be perfect, and perfectionism promotes chronic stress and burnout. And we intellectually know that no one can be perfect, but yet somehow we still hold ourselves to be at this unrealistic standard. And normally that's a conscious thing that we do. It might be something that you do at work, at home, with your friends. So just know that life is not perfect, and perfectionism is just something that's made up. Because how do we know that getting your hair done, nails done, makeup done, looking the part is perfect? What happens if it's supposed to be you just wake up out of bed and you go to work and that's perfect, but we don't know that because we're just so used to what society has said. And number 11 is release the need to be right. There's a beauty in being wrong, and that normally gives us the chance to learn and grow. And I feel like when I read that, that really hit me, because it was like, whoa, like you never think about being wrong as a learning experience. And if you're always wanting to be right, then you're burning your own energy on something that you may or may not be right about. And I feel like that is something that we can all relate to when you are having a fight with your spouse or a teacher or whatnot. Like, you think it's right, they don't think so, and you can't see eye to eye. So you just almost have to take a step back and look at the picture as a whole and figure out how you can just have peace with each other and know that it's all learning and it's all going to be okay. And number 12 is stop dwelling on the past or the future. The more we're stuck in the past, the less we can truly live our lives to the fullest and to the present. And also the same applies to the future. If it hasn't happened yet, stop delaying your joy and inner peace for something that you think is going to happen or some idealistic situation in the future. So for me and my business, that's what I had to stop doing. I had to stop thinking about the past and how I was like, I wish I would have went to school for this or started my life coaching sooner or whatnot. And I just had to let myself also dream about the future, but not get stuck in what I think it should look like and looking at what other people are doing. Because what they're doing may be right, it may be wrong, and it's all individualized. So just also, dream about the future, but don't be stuck in what you think it should look like. And some other ways that you can experience some inner peace is just spending time in nature, making some space for solitude, which could be cleaning out your life with all of the negative stuff. When you catch yourself saying something negative, then try to change it to a positive. Or if you're thinking negative thoughts, kind of think of like a pin, crossing it out and saying, no, I am going to change that sentence to something positive. Or even something like cleaning out the junk in your house. If you have stuff piled up and you just my husband will laugh at that because I totally get this way. If there's stuff piled up from like the kids' stuff on the floor or in their rooms, it's like it gives me the more anxiety that I see it. But then once I move it to their room or they pick it up and get it out of the way, then I feel more calm. And it's like if the house is clean, then my anxiety is at a low. But if it's not clean, my anxiety is through the roof. And then the most obvious one is just try to meditate every day. And the more that you meditate and you sit in calmness and stillness, the more that you'll just feel at peace, the more that you'll just, you'll just have that sense of surrender and not be so stressed out all the time. So I really hope that this helps you, and I hope that you can share this out to someone, let them know what we talked about, and I hope that you can just overall find a sense of peace and calmness in your life, and just know that things don't have to be perfect, and it is what it is, and we're all learning, we're all human, and I hope that you guys have a good rest of the day, and take care, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.